Joining us now from Capitol Hill is Republican Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming. Senator, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Great to be with you, Alexis.
So they should have every right to be outraged about the bonuses. Couldn't agree more. What about the fact that AIG has been giving money to some of the financial institutions who receive TARP funds? What about the outrage there?
Well, I just got back from Wyoming, Alexis. Been to a large health fair in Torrington, Wyoming, and then a gun show in Casper, Wyoming, where they're handing out tea bags because of the outrage. This is what everyone wants to talk about. And, you know, people can kind of understand the concept of these executives who've gotten these large bonuses. 73 of them got over $1 million. Some of them, you know, are no longer there. They're retention bonuses or performance bonuses. We in Wyoming understand what it means to stay on the job and what it means to be paid for performing well, and we don't see that in play here. Farmers and ranchers get the idea of taking risk, and they know what's involved. But there continues to be grave concern with the amount, not just of those dollar figures, but also the money that's gone to overseas banks. The $13 billion that went to Goldman Sachs, $20 billion overseas to offshore banks. So there are huge concerns. And, you know, there have been 4 payouts now by our government, by our taxpayers, by the owners now of AIG, and I don't think they're getting their money's worth, and neither do the people of Wyoming.
Okay, so Senator, let's talk about what is supposed to be on the docket for you guys this week, and that is whether or not you'll pick up where the House left off at the end of last week on this plan here to tax up to 90% of those who are making over $250,000 or more on a retroactive basis. Are we over-exaggerating what's happening specifically at AIG? Is it threatening the capital system? How do you feel about this? Good, bad, and different?
Yeah, what I feel is when you get money from the government, you know, when you come to say, give us help, it's like breaking the glass, you know, when it says in case of emergency, break the glass. That's what these folks have done. They've broken the glass, and to me, then the rules change. I'm absolutely opposed to the way that this got stuffed into the stimulus package in the last hours before people voted on this 1,200-page bill. So I think that Washington has to be very careful with what it does in terms of Wall Street. But people are affected and offended by Wall Street's greed as well as Washington's incompetence in dealing with this thing.
Okay, so Senator, are you suggesting...
Those are the issues that you have to deal with.
Right, so Senator, are you suggesting that we then use the tax code to penalize people, even those who have worked for financial institutions who have had nothing specifically to do with these situations?
No, what I'm saying is that when you make an agreement with the government to take money, there should be accountability, oversight, and transparency. And I think they got that wrong, which is why I voted against the bailout last fall that didn't include those sorts of things. You have to be able, just as in a bankruptcy, to go in and renegotiate and start fresh on some things. And that's where we failed. And the American people realize that Washington failed this time.
Senator, I'm curious. I don't know if you read it, but Friedman wrote an op-ed in the New York Times yesterday where he talked about the fact that it appears as though this has become all about partisan politics and each other sort of butchering each other about who's responsible and proving I didn't vote for this, I voted for that. But at the end of the day, we should all collectively be trying to solve the problem as opposed to pointing fingers at one another. Are we making progress in that regard? Because so much of our focus is on Capitol Hill right now. But is it the solutions or is it the outrage?
Well, there's outrage at home, and the solutions I don't see coming. The president in the weekly radio address didn't talk about this sort of thing. He talked about his major budgetary changes, and that was what was supposed to be on the Capitol Hill this week. And to me, the budget, to me, is irresponsible. It's a threat to America, that kind of spending. We don't have that kind of money. It spends too much. It borrows too much. It taxes too much. And I am opposed to looking at those things. The president has 2 responsibilities, and one is to keep us safe at home, and the other is to fix this economy. And you mentioned Friedman's article, and yes, I read it, and we need to find solutions aimed at solving this whole economic problem, not on remaking energy, remaking healthcare, remaking education. Those things can wait. Right now, all eyes ought to be on the economy. Not on vast plans.
So, Senator, what do you think of Treasury Secretary Geithner's plan, at least what you know of it thus far, in terms of purchasing those toxic assets this morning? Is it a good plan? Does he deserve to keep his job? Is the criticism too tough?
Well, that's what the original bailout was supposed to do last October. Purchase toxic assets. Where did that $750 billion go? I want to know. The people of my state want to know. We want accounting for that money. I mean, that's what the problem is with this whole situation, Alexis. Money gets thrown up, and then it doesn't get used for the things that it's supposed to. Now we have this large stimulus plan, another $1 trillion when you talk about the expenses as well as the interest on that debt. Where did that money go?
So
now
Senator,
all of a sudden we're going to look at toxic debt. Well, we've now gone with $2 trillion. Now they want another $1 trillion. This is what they've been supposed to be doing since last October.
Okay, so this is something that Paulson tried to implement, but it was fairly complicated, as I'm sure you understand. I think it's even complicated at this date. But are you giving Geithner good marks on getting it together, putting the plan in place? I mean, if you have to rate him on a scale of 1 to 10, what grade are you giving Geithner thus far?
Well, if 1 is terrible and 10 is excellent, it's less than 5. I voted against his confirmation. He was the man we were told in the Senate that the president had to have. He was the one the president had to have. In spite of his tax problems, in spite of other things, he was the one that could save AIG. He was the one that could solve all these. He was the one at the New York Fed who had made that first payment to AIG because he was the only person in America, we were told, smart enough to figure it out. Well, if that's how he's going to be judged, he's still below average to me.
All right, Senator John Barrasso, Republican of Wyoming. We will leave it there. Senator, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Alexis.